Top 10 flyweights looking to advance in the division. It's number 8, Viviane Araujo. The nickname is Vivi. You could get a little bit more creative. For Andrea Lee, her nickname rhymes with her name, but it's just not the time or the place. She's 9th ranked in the division and on a 2-fight finishing streak. And for Andrea Lee, I got to level with everybody out there with Fight Night picks. I had to do my research for this fight, of course, but I don't often go back and watch our videos, and I did for this one specific reason. I didn't watch the entire video, I just watched the end. I picked every single Andrea Lee fight wrong on this channel. When she fought Lauren Murphy, I picked Lee. She lost that fight. When she fought Modafferi, I picked Lee. She lost that fight. When she fought Shevchenko, I picked Shevchenko. And when she fought Cynthia Calvillo, I thought that girl was nasty, and I'm going to pick Cynthia Calvillo. I've been wrong in the last 4 fights going back about 2.5 years, so I have no damn idea what Andrea Lee's going to do. Now, I know exactly what her technique is at this point, and her last 2 fights have really shown this well-rounded game plan. I mean, we saw it against Shevchenko, dominated her on the mat, was able to get the finish. Her last time out there, she broke Cynthia Calvillo at 125 pounds. Like, broke her down, finished her TKO at the end of it, but really, really good showings out of Andrea Lee. I think she's really centered her camp and figured things out. Obviously, Tony Kelly, a big central part of that, but I want to give credit where credit's due. A lot of people over on the Instagrams, Andy Nguyen, you know her, you love her, the Crazian. You also have Tyler Schaefer, Combate's own, and Victoria Leonardo, UFC fighter as well. But for Lee, it's really been a very well-rounded skill set to a fighter who we kind of came to know and love as a very good kickboxer, but I love what I've seen out of her, not just in these last 2 fights. I know there were a lot of close decisions, so on and so forth, but again, if we do just focus on those last 2, I really, really like what I see, or what I have seen out of Andrea Lee.
She is starting to prove that you can teach an old dog new tricks. Not that Andrea Lee's ancient in this weight class by any means, but she was definitely a fighter that you thought was set in her style, and I couldn't agree with you anymore. I definitely looked at her as primarily a kickboxer, and hey, if Andrea Lee's going to win a fight, she's probably not going to take it down to the mat whatsoever, but she's definitely proven that wrong as of late, and I've really liked her style because she'll figure out, okay, I'm very well-rounded, I get it done on the feet, I get it done on the ground, my wrestling is ever improving, so she'll just take the fight to wherever her opponent feels the weakest, and that's a really great game plan. Like, that works across the division no matter who you're fighting. The weird thing about both of these fighters, though, is it's kind of like when you're breaking down any playoff team in any sport. You look at the strengths, you look at the weaknesses. I feel like both these fighters have very obvious strengths, but both of them have very obvious weaknesses, too. And that's why this fight should be a lot of fun. For Lee, no power on the feet, if we're being honest. Good pitter-patter. She can start to accumulate damage if her jab is landing a lot, but that really is the key to a lot of her damaging shots. But good volume on the feet normally is the key for Angela Lee, and really good footwork, too. Especially especially while moving on the back foot. For Araujo, she has very deceiving power, and it's odd because when it lands with hammers. But she doesn't really throw enough volume for her to always land those power shots, and it's kind of frustrating watching her fight sometimes because she has that build-up almost like Darren Till, where it's like the
like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, you're building for something, but then we never get the leg drop out of her. We just kind of see those feints. We see that upper body movement. But she can get outworked in her fights. And I always go back to the Jessica Ai fight. Trust me, everybody knows my thoughts on Jessica Ai and her fighting for a title and her in the top of really any division. She did beat Araujo, though, just by being busier in that fight. And it was a close fight, don't get me wrong, but I thought Jessica Ai left as the winner just really by throwing 1-2s, and they didn't all land. It was just by being active that was able to do enough for Araujo, who I feel like if she was able to use her athleticism a little bit more, be it in the clinch or even with her own takedowns, I think she'd have a lot more success because she is one of the bigger fighters in this weight division, especially fighting Andrea Lee, who I wouldn't say is big for 125 whatsoever. She's kind of thin for the division. I think if Araujo can get this into the clinch, she could have a lot of success just with her physicality.
So Viviane Araujo, if she's not getting wins by finish, it's kind of we talk about blueprints. She wins the first round, loses the second round, wins the third round, and that's how she's going to win a decision. But her last time out against Katlyn Chookagian, she lost the first round, won the second round, lost the third round. So it was a complete about-face for Araujo and everything I knew. I mean, again, you talked about the fight that she did have. Her second to last loss was that one against a really tough fighter in Jessica Ai. But I look at the fight that she had against Alexis Davis, where she looked really good in the first round. Second round, Davis is wearing on her, and then Araujo had to pick it up in the third, and you thought, wow, heavily muscled at 125.
It was the first chink in the armor that you saw in her UFC career.
But third round, she was able to rally in that one, and I like that out of her. And she's somebody that trains out of Cerrado MMA, a gym that's synonymous with Vicente Luque, but also you have Gilbert Burns, his old stomping grounds there. You really do like, again, for Araujo, 94% takedown defense in the UFC. The only person to take her down was Montana De La Rosa for a very small amount of time. The other flip side of that coin is the fact that for Andrea Lee, if Cynthia Calvillo was going to beat her, she was going to grind on her, take her down, wear on her. Calvillo went 1 of 3 in takedown attempts in that fight and got 39 seconds of control time total. Andrea Lee did a great job in that one.
I want to get your opinion, though, on that fight, because there is a part of me that just feels like Cynthia Calvillo was not ready for that whatsoever. So I just don't know how much stock to put into it, because you're right. Calvillo did have that one sort of burst for the takedown, had a little bit of control time, but it felt like the second the fight got back up to the feet, she was just sort of broken from that point on. So personally, I don't know how much stock I can put into that win, because it just felt like Andrea Lee was going to beat Calvillo no matter what. Like, Calvillo didn't look like herself whatsoever, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, to kind of gain from a Beastie Boys reference, Andrea Lee looked as cool as a cucumber in a bowl of hot sauce in that one. So a big time win for her. But for Araujo, you can't forget the wins that she does have in the UFC. You brought it up. I mean, that big win over Talita Bernardo years ago, big knockout win. She also beat Alexis Davis. The 2-win sandwich between the losses, Montana De La Rosa and Roxanne Modafferi. Happy trails in retirement. We have a look at the odds for this one. Araujo opened a plus 125 favorite. She is a minus 104 as a slight underdog. Andrea Lee opening up minus 145. Minus 118 as it stands right now. Now, this could be one of those fights like Lupe Godinez taking on big-time Ariane Carnelosi. Carnelosi's coming off of 2 big finish wins. And then in my eyes, she got 30-24. But listen, hey, it is what it is. Araujo could come back out, get a big win here. But when we look at the fan votes, Matt, on Tapology, surprise us it is to you. I'm going to say over under 65% Lee.
I think Araujo will be the favorite.
Slightly Lee, 585 total votes, 69% Lee, 89% by decision. For the 31% that have Araujo, 88% by decision. Matt, when Viviane Araujo debuted in the UFC, I thought she was going to be top 5 for a really long time. We're not quite there yet. For Andrea Lee, I thought about the same. Former LFA champ at flyweight. Who was the champ after her at flyweight with the LFA, you ask? Sabina Mazo recently released. Andrea Lee still doing the damn thing. Let's pick here.
It is a hard fight to pick. Again, I could see Andrea Lee looking really good until she doesn't. And then maybe she does give up an inopportune takedown near the end of a round that could seal it for Araujo. Or maybe Araujo looks really good in the clinch in some opportunities and can land big power shots. Because that's the thing about Lee. She is good at distance, but when fighters get on the inside of her, Joanne at the time Calderwood, now Joanne Wood, had a lot of success with her elbows on the inside against Lee. And that really told the story of that fight. So I'm a little worried about Angela Lee in some spots on the feet, but I do feel like her volume is going to be quite overwhelming in this matchup. And the thing about her grappling is, it's not great by any means, but I do think it's tricky enough to where if it is on the mat, she can get back up to her feet, or she can threaten enough with her own submissions and her own top game to secure minutes and moments in the fight. So I'm picking Andrea Lee, but it's wild what 2 years will do, because 2 years ago, I agree with you, I thought Araujo would definitely beat someone like Andrea Lee, but given the improvements Lee has been able to make throughout her UFC tenure, and the fact that Araujo kind of looks like the same fighter that she was when she initially came into the UFC, is going to make me pick Andrea Lee.
Matt doing the cha-cha slide with Andrea Lee. I'm in agreement on the pick. I think the volume will be the difference maker. Araujo, will she go for the takedowns? Will she implement some of the grappling that we have seen a little bit in the past? I don't think so. And again, the big power shot could be there, but I do like the volume of Lee in this fight. So both of us going with Andrea Lee out of Louisiana to get the win. You let us know down below in the comments section who you have. Some big time fights on this card that remains. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.